Gentlemen, let's speak truth, raw and unfiltered, not to judge you, but to awaken you, not to expose your weakness, but to ignite your evolution. Every man wants to win, but most don't realize that the battlefield is not out there. It's in here points to head and heart. Why the love isn't lasting, why the business isn't growing. It's because you're surviving, not creating. To create means to step into the unknown. It means to let go of who you've been and start embodying the man you're becoming. Now. It means tapping into elevated emotions before the evidence appears. Gratitude, joy, freedom, inspiration, these aren't just feelings. They are frequencies. They're creative energies that signal to the universe. I already believe in the future I'm building. Most men wait for the external to shift before they allow themselves to feel differently. They say, once I make the money, I'll feel abundant. Once I meet the woman, I'll feel loved. Once I succeed, I'll feel proud. But that's backwards. In survival, you wait. In creation, you generate. You must feel the emotion of the outcome before it arrives. Because when your inner world changes, your outer world mirrors it. This isn't theory, it's biology. When you enter a meditative state and move your brainwaves into theta or alpha frequencies, your body enters coherence. Stress chemicals lower, intuition increases. Your heart begins sending a rhythm that harmonizes with the brain. And from this place, from this stillness, you become a creator. Creation requires safety, and the truth is most men don't feel safe inside themselves. They've wired their bodies to always be alert, always doing, always proving. But true power is not in motion. It's in alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions align with your vision, you become unstoppable, not because you're fighting, but because you're flowing. And so the invitation is simple, but not easy. You must train your nervous system to feel peace without needing external permission. You must teach your body to trust a future it hasn't seen yet. You must break the addiction to adrenaline, drama and distraction, and choose presence, stillness. Intention. Start by noticing, when do you feel rushed? When do you feel pressure? When do you feel like you're behind? Ask yourself, who is this man I'm becoming reacting like? Does he chase? Does he fear? Or does he create? Then begin practicing elevated emotion on command. Now as a man, you're still chasing permission, still performing for eyes, still living like a mirror, reflecting what you think others want to see. But understand this. Every time you seek validation, you abandon your vision, you outsource your power, you dilute your signal, and slowly the man you were born to be is replaced by the man you think the world wants. You post for attention, not expression. You dress to impress, not to embody. You speak to be liked, not to be true. And freedom begins the moment you stop asking, will they like me? And start asking, am I becoming who I came here to be? So let them scroll past you. Let them misunderstand. Let them talk, because you weren't built to fit in. You were built to lead. You were built to vision. You were built to win without needing applause to do it. You've been taught that to be a strong man is to be rational, logical, unemotional. That thinking clearly means ignoring what you feel. That decisions must be calculated, not intuitive. That emotions are soft. That feelings are feminine. That sensitivity is a flaw. But what if I told you that this belief is exactly why you're not winning? You've built a kingdom in your head, but abandoned the throne in your heart. You've sharpened your intellect, but dulled your instinct. You think in straight lines, but life moves in spiral. And because of this, you're disconnected from others, from your purpose, from yourself. Understand this. Logic is a tool. Emotion is a compass. The masculine isn't about repressing the emotional, it's about mastering it. And mastery does not mean avoidance, it means integration. Let's be clear, you can have the perfect strategy, the right plan, the most rational argument, but if your emotional frequency is incoherent, it will all collapse. Because reality is not moved by information. It is moved by vibration. Emotion is energy in motion. Every emotion you feel is a broadcast to the universe, a signature into the quantum field. Joy, grief, fear, desire, rage, love, they are not weaknesses. They are data, they are fuel, they are portals. But you've been taught to suppress them, to bury them, to armor up. You tell yourself if feelings get in the way. No, unprocessed feelings get in the way. Suppressed emotion creates distortion. It leaks out in unconscious ways through procrastination, overthinking, burnout, addiction, emotional unavailability, reactive anger. Because here's the truth most men avoid. You are always being moved by emotion. Even when you think you're being purely logical, what's really driving you is a feeling. Fear of failure, hunger for recognition, the desire to feel safe or respected. Logic may structure the plan, but emotion chooses the direction. The most dangerous man is the one who thinks he's above emotion, because he's actually ruled by the very feelings he refuses to face. So you keep choosing the wrong relationships, not because you're dumb, but because your unhealed loneliness is driving the choice. You stay in the wrong job. Not because you lack ambition, but because fear of instability is overriding your intuition. You avoid hard conversations, not because you lack words, but because shame still echoes in your chest from being unheard as a boy. Do you see? This isn't weakness. This is wiring, and wiring can be rewired. When you begin to sit with your emotion, not analyze it, but actually feel it, it reveals truth. Emotions are messengers. They carry the keys to transformation. And when you listen, they stop needing to scream. When you honor them, they stop hijacking your path. Let me show you how this works in real time. You feel resistance to a goal. Most men push harder. That's logic. But if you pause and ask what emotion is present beneath this resistance, you might discover fear, shame, grief. And once you bring it to the surface, breathe through it, hold it, witness it, your resistance begins to dissolve. That's not weakness, that's alchemy. Or you find yourself distracted, unfocused. You blame your environment. You change your tools. You restructure your calendar. That's logic. But the emotion underneath might be boredom, resentment, lack of fulfillment. And if you ignore it, you'll keep tweaking the schedule, but you'll never change the frequency you're living in. Emotion is the soil of creation. Your ideas grow out of it. Your relationships are nourished or poisoned by it. Your ability to execute isn't determined by your IC, it's determined by your emotional resilience. So no, you don't need to cry every day. You don't need to spill your guts to strangers. You need to learn how to become emotionally fluent, to listen, to decode, to transmute. It begins with awareness. When a strong emotion rises, pause, name it, don't label it a good or a bad, just observe. Then feel it fully, without escaping, without fixing, without numbing. Just feel, breathe, let it pass through like a storm. Because emotion that is felt becomes fuel. Emotion that is ignored becomes sabotage. The modern man must evolve. He must awaken the warrior and the mystic. He must know when to act with fire and when to listen with stillness. He must allow himself to feel deeply and move boldly, to be both structured and soulful, clear and compassionate, rooted in his mind, but driven by his heart. This is the edge, this is the power, and when you begin living this way, when you move beyond numbness and into aliveness, everything changes. Your intuition sharpens, your presence deepens, your relationships elevate, your creative power multiplies. Why? Because the universe doesn't respond to logic. It responds to frequency, and frequency is emotion, embodied, directed, activated. So yes, be logical, build the strategy, master your mind. But do not forget that your true genius lies in your ability to feel without drowning and express without apology. The man who can access his emotional truth without being consumed by it is unbreakable. He does not suppress. He transcends. He does not perform. He embodies. He does not control. He creates. So if you want to win, don't just sharpen your mind, open your heart. Not to become soft, but to become sovereign. Because the man who owns his emotion owns his evolution. Your past is not the problem. Your attachment to it is. Most men are not failing because they lack ambition. They're failing because they keep repeating the same story, the same thoughts, the same emotions, over and over again. Day after day, they wake up into a mind programmed by memory. And then they wonder why nothing changes. Let's get real. You are living by memory. You think about what happened. You react based on what happened. You plan based on what didn't work before. You define who you are by the evidence of your past. Your heartbreaks, your failures, your wins, your losses. You've built an identity out of history. But here's the truth. As long as you are defined by the old version of yourself, you will never become the man you are meant to be. Because creation doesn't happen in the past. It happens in the unknown. It happens in imagination. And imagination isn't childish, it's divine. It is the mind's ability to see what hasn't been seen yet, to feel what hasn't been experienced yet, to believe in a reality that doesn't have physical evidence yet. Think about it. The men who changed the world, did they live by what was or by what could be? They didn't consult memory. They consulted vision. They imagined something greater and then moved toward it, even when everyone else called them crazy. And that's what you must reclaim. Not fantasy, but imaginative power. The ability to live not by the facts of your history, but by the frequency of your future. But you can't get there with the same thoughts you've been thinking. Every thought you think has a frequency. When you think a thought rooted in memory, especially emotional memory, it fires the same circuits in the brain, the same neurochemicals, the same hormonal responses. The body relives the past, and then it gets addicted. It craves familiar pain, familiar limitation, familiar struggle, because even though the past hurt, it was safe, predictable, so you keep living from it. Your goals are shaped by what you think is possible. Your relationships are filtered through past heartbreak. Your money beliefs are inherited from family wounds. Your actions are limited by who you used to be. Over years, even decades, you've been telling yourself a silent story. I'm not enough. I always screw it up. I have to prove myself. Success isn't safe. A love means sacrifice. I'm not a leader. I'm not the type of guy who... And even though you've outgrown those thoughts mentally, your body is still running them emotionally. This is why your actions often feel forced, why your discipline burns out, why your growth plateaus. Because your external life can never outpace your internal image. You cannot outperform who you believe you are, so you go to the gym, but you still see yourself as the insecure, skinny kid. You build a business, but you still feel like a fraud. You enter a relationship, but you carry the identity of a man who isn't worthy of love, and so you act and then undo. You rise and then retreat. You get close and then self-sabotage. This is not a discipline issue. This is not laziness. This is an identity lock. And here's the truth. Lasting change happens when your internal identity shifts to match the future you want to create. You don't become successful by acting successful. You become successful by embodying the identity of the man who already is. Then your actions flow from that embodiment, not as a performance, but as a byproduct. Because identity is not static, it is programmable. But the programming requires presence, intention, and repetition, not force. Let me show you how. Start by asking, who do I choose to be? Not based on your past, not based on your pain, based on vision. Who is the man already living your desired reality? How does he think? How does he walk? How does he walk? What does he believe about himself without needing proof? Get specific. Get emotional. Not from your head, but from your heart. Because the brain learns from repetition, but the body learns from emotion. You have to feel it before you see it. And then act accordingly, not in massive force leaps, but in small daily alignments. Speak like that version of you. Dress like him. Breathe like him. Make decisions the way he would. Not to fake it, but to make it familiar. Because what is familiar becomes automatic, and what is automatic becomes identity. Rewire your self-image through repetition plus feeling. That's the key. But beware, the old identity will resist. Your ego will cling to comfort. Your nervous system will scream, and this isn't you. Because safety lives in the known. Even if the known is dysfunctional, painful, limiting, it's familiar. And your body prefers familiar over freedom. Unless you consciously choose otherwise, you will be tempted to go back, to shrink, to hide behind action instead of alignment. But this is the edge where transformation lives. Because the more you embody the identity of the man you are becoming, the more reality bends to match it. Not by luck, but by law. Let me break it down. Your identity creates your thoughts. Your thoughts create your emotions. Your emotions drive your behavior. Your behavior produces your results. So if you keep trying to change your results without changing your identity, you're fighting the current. You're rearranging symptoms, not healing the root. But when you shift your identity, the entire chain reaction transforms. You no longer try to be disciplined. You are disciplined. You no longer act confident. You are confident. You no longer chase respect. You embody it. And then the results, they become inevitable. Because they are a reflection of your new state of being. This is what real evolution looks like. You stop trying to force change, you start becoming the change. You stop chasing the goal, you start being the man who attracts it. You stop reacting from habit, you start creating from identity. And that's how you win, not once but continuously. Because now you're not just changing your life. You're reprogramming your reality, not through hustle but through embodiment, not through willpower but through identity power. So stop asking, what should I do? Start asking, who must I become? Because action is a tool, but identity is the foundation. And when you master who you are, everything you desire becomes inevitable.